Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Legacy of Dorn. I turned the music back on. I'll see how it goes for this episode just to see if maybe that adds a little ambiance to it, but if it gets to be too overwhelming after I listen to some of the audio once we're done with this session, then I may turn it off. I don't think we'll be able to finish the game in the next hour. That's about the amount of time that I have to put forth on this episode today. So last time we went after our apothecary, and unfortunately he died, was teleported into the floor of the spaceship, and we were able to get his device to try to help us save the gene seed of our brothers. We then went on to the Necron tomb ship and found our other brother who was blown up because of a trap that he set on, and that gave us a flamethrower. And we killed the Broodlord. I think those are pretty much the major things, and then we found out that our main ship was under attack by Dark Eldar, and we were teleported on, and because of the attack, the teleportarium didn't work appropriately, and that's why we're all split up, and we still haven't found our sergeant. We've kind of got little blips on our radar for some of our squad members, but not the sergeant. So, we'll start our next search here. So we'll go after Brother Kale. Now that you're clear of the Necron tomb ship, your Auspex is working again, at least as well as it ever has within the confines of the derelict. Locking onto Brother Kale's signal, again you set off once more, following the canyons of inverted deck plating and crossing chasms that have formed between the compacted asteroid debris. Beyond the bulkhead engraved with the Imperial Aquila, you find yourself walking between the shattered columns of a colonnade that must have once been part of an ecclesiarchy vessel. Looming over you at the angle of almost 45 degrees are the void-proof stained glass windows of a chancel, showing some saint of an imperial church smiting a heretic horde backed up by the battalion of penitent engines. Unquestionable fusion fires elsewhere within the wreck illuminate the 30-meter tall panes, casting a spectrum of light across the broken flagstones of the ruined cloister you are traversing now. The chiming of your Auspex has you readying yourself for the battle once again as the machine spirit paints your HUD with multiple incoming contacts, and then you catch sight of the first of them in the flesh. It's the humanoid in form and wears a monastic robe of coarse sackcloth. About its neck hangs a heavy chain bearing a badly corroded rosette of the Ordo Hereticus. Trailing from the sleeves of its habit are knotted whip-like cables that sputter and spark with serpents of electrical energy. The strange pennant is joined by another, this one wearing only a loincloth. You can clearly see its skinned musculature, how the electrolashes are bolted directly onto its elbows, and the stained brass hood covering its face. The seal of the Emperor's Most Holy Inquisition has been laser etched onto its scarred surface. You do not know what has happened to the two arco-flagellants that are now stalking towards you between the crumbling pillars, or how they have been here, but something is definitely wrong. For some reason, these servants of the Inquisition's witch hunters have decided that you are their enemy, and as they bound towards you, electro flails discharge fat sparks of high voltage energy. You have no choice but to defend yourself. I'm just going to turn the cheat engine on for this game, just because the combat is awful slow. Well, let's do 4 this time. I think I did 3 last time. So, used up 2 actions, fire. Oh. Actually, we might be in close quarters range. Following Brother Kale's signal, you penetrate further into the derelict. You traverse broken, twisted corridors of sheet metal and pass through the fissures formed within the accumulated space rock. Sometimes your way is lit by a still flickering glow of globes, but most of the time you find yourself cloaked in shadows and darkness, forcing you to rely on your own enhanced senses, the auto senses of your Terminator armor, and your searchlight to help you navigate a path through the vast hulk. Slowly the nondescript corridors, walkways, and rifts give way to some rust-red walls, corridors wide enough to drive a Rhino APC through, and familiar, blocky metallic structures. The repeated bas-relief images of cybernetic skulls removes any doubt in your mind as to where you are now, if there has ever been any. You are entering the wreck of a warp-lost vessel of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Acres of grilled decking spread out before you into a ruddy gloom permeated by the occasional flickering of lumen strip or glow glob. The disturbed dust of ages drifting in their ambient auras, based on your signal of your auspex is receiving from the brothers. Battlesuit is somewhere within the ancient arc. But as you progress further into the Mechanicus ship, it soon becomes clear that something is wrong. Other than the fact that the Ark is now part of a drifting space hulk, there are things growing on mounds of sludge dripping from various effluent discharges in the walls. The growths look like large fungi, their pointed caps the color of stained copper. Memories implanted inside your head during one of the phases of your initiation into the Imperial Fist chapter means you recognize the toadstools for what they are. The fungi are orcoid in origin, part of the savage alien race's reproductive cycle. If allowed to grow to maturity, in time they will produce more of the savage greenskins, or one of the lesser orcoid species, but that will still be troublesome for the Imperium. The only way to eradicate them effectively is to burn them. Well, good thing we have a hemi-flamer. Turning your brother's flamer on the toadstools, pulling the trigger, you bathe them in the dragon's breath blast of burning promethium. You take your time to make sure you have doused every affected area of growth with flame before moving on. We'll now head south. You make good progress into the Ark, heading in a southerly direction, keeping one eye on your auspex and your brother Kale's signal at all times. Eventually you reach a solid wall of reinforced adamantium. At the same time you lose Kale's signal. You wonder if he is still alive or whether something about the makeup of this part of the vessel is blocking your signal. Either way, you have been heading directly toward the beacon of your brother's signal, but the structure of the ship is now forcing you to take a turn to the east or to the west. Which direction will you end up? West, I'm going to the east. So you continue your advance through the Mechanicus vessel, still unhindered. Other than the growth of fungus, you have not seen any signs of greenskins on board. Perhaps the toadstools are the only initial phase of the new infestation. The further you advance, the further you are heading away from the source of Brother Kale's signal. As you pass beyond the steel-ribbed archway, you come to an entrance of what looks like another gigantic effluent pipe. Its grilled metal cover is gone and torn open by something recently too, by the looks of things. And then, as you point your searchlight into the mouth of the pipe, your auspex detects movement in there beyond the range of the light beam. Enter the pipe to investigate. The pipe is so large that even you, kitted out in full tactical dreadnought armor, can enter without fear of becoming wedged inside. Water or some other fluid drips from the curved roof of the pipe, collecting in the channel under your boots before running away from further into the gloom. Your Auspec's return increases in rapidity until then you see it caught in a beam of your searchlight. The creature is large, at least as big as the biggest orc, but rather than being green, its leathery hide is blood red in color, and its body is almost entirely spherical. The thing gives a croaking, belching cry and bounds towards you in a pair of powerful legs, its tiniest four limbs hugging tight against its body. The rest of the creature is little more than a vast mouth filled with great bony tusks of ferocious fangs. Apparently unheeding your own formidable appearance, the monster squig attacks. The thing is buff. The squig dies with a satisfying pop, its body disintegrating into a myriad of spores which fills the pipe, becoming caught on the sticky surface of the corroded metal or drifting down to the floor, where many are captured by the effluent stream and carried away in the dark. The pipe continues in a direction closer to that you believe you want to be heading in, but there are many greater dangers to face than squigs further on. Continue to advance along the pipe. The pipe begins to slope downwards, the gradient becoming steadily steeper, just as you are wondering if you shouldn't quit this course and return to the entrance. With a terrible rending of metal and corroded pipe gives way under your weight, cantilevering downwards. You are unable to save yourself as the pipe falls away, plummeting into the gloom below. For a moment, both your vision and your HUD remain dark. The interminable, oppressive darkness gives way to the gray shadows and finally infrared images as your helm's auto senses come back online. Slowly, you get to your feet, using the rusted handle and a corroded bulkhead to help. As you rotate left and right, your searchlight penetrating the gloom, you build up a picture of a place where you now find yourself after plummeting into the bowels of the ship. It is a space as large as one of the great shrine temples aboard the phalanx of your chapter's fortress monastery. It is only then that you look down and see that your golden armor is covered in a thick, greasy sludge. You are up to your ankles in more the same, judging by the lake of the oily effluent and the cavernous space in which you find yourself. You are clearly in the bilges of the Mechanicus vessel, and if what your Auspex is telling you is true, not even the orcs have dared delve this far. Unable to return the way by which you entered the bilges, you have no choice but to set off across the lake of sludge, praying that your Primarch will guide your steps so that you might be reunited with your lost battle brother. A fuming miasma hangs over the surface of the sump lake, out of which rise the corroded buttresses that support the distant ceiling inlets of collected detritus and even the occasional purple tentacle, although the latter disappear again just as quickly upon sensing your approach. And then, through the murk, towering wall appears. You have reached the end of the particular compartment of the Ark's hold, the wall pitted with corrosion and bedecked with jutting balconies, rising rampways, and ladders, so you are confident that you could scale it to escape the bilges. However, at the foot of the mountainous wall, is a sealed bulk door, and a part of you can't help but wonder where it might open the door. The bulkhead door bears both the cog and cyber skull symbols of the machine cult. As you seize the two halves of the hatchway with your servo-assisted ceramite gauntlets, you wonder if it is a sign of what you can expect to find within the chamber beyond, or whether it is meant as a warning. With a hiss of escaping stale air, the hatch slowly begins to open. The hatch slowly begins to open. It is a mistypo. Even as the hydraulic mechanisms of the door groan in protest as they fight to keep it closed, there comes a series of clicks and four smaller hatches iris open around the bulk door. From the orifices snake four thick mechadendrites, each articulated robot limb ends in a pair of vicious pincers which snap at your own armored limbs. Even as the mechadendrites try to encircle you, you have no choice but to engage the door's defenses before they tear you limb to limb. Use my storm bolter. You fire your bolter at the door defenses, and while you are effective at range combat, it is a poor choice in the scenario. You sever one of the mechadendrites, but it takes time, allowing the others to attack you. The battle is fierce, and you finally succeed your mission, but not without significant damage. You lose 8 wounds. Oof. With a squirting sputter of sparks, the last of the severed mechadendrites falls into the oily sludge and sinks out of sight, taking the two halves of the bulk door in your hands once more. You pull them apart in a display of formidable strength. Stepping over the threshold of the portal, you enter a much smaller chamber. Beyond that has the air of a mausoleum about it. Entombed within, covered by centuries of dust, collecting dust, are four motionless forms. Each is in part flesh, although that flesh is now withered and mummified, judging by the extensive modifications made to 3 of the bodies. These were once slave servitors. The fourth, however, is shrouded in a deep red robe. This one must have been a priest of the cult Mechanicus. Search the chamber, search the bodies. I would rather be dead. Let's search the chamber. Sweeping the dust and debris from the cogitator console with one hand, you uncover a corroded data slate. Could this still be working all this time? Pick it up, and you press the ruin button at the base. Its cracked screen flickers to life, accompanied by a grating grumble of the device's machine spirit. Taking the curled knob on the side of the slate you carefully between your fingers and thumb, you scroll through the information the slate contains. As you feared, little data actually remains that hasn't been corrupted or lost altogether over the centuries, but you do stumble across something that gets your attention. It is a data file originally penned by one of the Inquisitor Cryptsmen and concerns the extragalactic xenoforms known as the Tyranids. Cryptman spent hundreds of years battling the Tyranid menaces, and his research, coupled first-hand experience, just showed him the best way to put down all manner of species of Xenos. With the information contained in this data slate at your disposal, should you run into any Tyranno forms aboard the Herald of Oblivion, you will be even more adept at killing them than you would be without it. Oh, that's pretty cool. Search the bodies in the chamber. As you move between the bodies, disturbing the dust of ages, your attention is drawn to a blinking light that lies buried in a tangle of robes and the mechadendrites. That is all that is left of the tech priest. Reaching into the knot of servo limbs, your hand closes around a digiwand, a kind of key used to unlock a digital lock. It has a total of 12 blinking lights running the length of its cylindrical body. A sudden whirring sound alerts you to danger as the slumped tangle of robes and augmetics begins to move. It would seem that the dead do not sleep as easy here as you would at first believe. As the tech priest remains rise up, its decayed vestments crumble and fall off from its mechanical body. There is no flesh left. The mass of metal and mechadendrites is all that is left of the adept. The machine spirit still residing within them, instinctively trying to defend the tech priest's sanctuary from interlopers. Fight. The tech priest remains clatter to the floor of the chamber, now just so much scrap metal, bone fragments, and severed servo limbs. Surveying the room, you can see nothing else here, but you can't help but wonder what the tech priest was doing. It's almost as if the adept was locking himself away here to hide, or perhaps he was guarding something. Locked, perhaps a digiwand would be useful here. As you turn from the wreckage of the tech priest, the machine spirit encased within the digiwand chirps, and a number of blinking lights on its encasing turn red. Giving the room a sweep with the wand, it chirps again, and more of the lights change color. As you advance further into the room, the wand starts to emit a regular beeping tone, which raises in rapidity and pitch as you move towards the back of the wall of the chamber. The sound being emitted by the digiwand becomes a single unbroken tone, and at last the light turns crimson. With the clacking of the ancient bolts unlocking, a previously hidden portal in the wall slides open. A miasma of nitrogen mist escapes at the darkness beyond, evaporating the moment it becomes in contact with the air currents of the chamber. Pass through the new portal and face whatever lies beyond, or exit the tech priest's final. We're committed, we're going in. After 100 meters, the passageway ends at another door. However, this one opens as soon as you approach it. The lights of the digiwand turn from red to green. You find yourself at the threshold to a near spherical room filled with an ancient cogitator relays, the obsidian black memory matter data stores. At the center of this archaeotech, sitting amidst a nest of cabling, is a polished human skull adorned with all manner of micro-electrical and mechanical accoutrements. As you enter the chamber, the bionic eye set within the orbit of one of its eye sockets begins to glow with a malevolent red light. With a hum of electrical and mechanical activity, the skull rises upwards on the end of the telescoping armature. The cyber-altered task unit proceeds to scan you with a sweep of the green laser light, channeling it to itself in binaric. As it does so, finally a voice, rusty with age and faltering from lack of use, sounds through the Vox link in your helm. Assessment: Adeptus Astartes. Designation: Imperial Fist. Tactical Dreadnought Armor. Threat Assessment: High. Who is this, you demand? You've never encountered a cyber skull that spoke before. Increased tonal inflection and pheromone analysis indicates the subject is angry. Threat assessment: very high. I am Neighbor, brother of the squad, Sepio, son of Dorn, and Imperial Fist of the Adeptus Astartes. I have come to cleanse this hulk of Xenos taint. Who are you? Query: who am I? Comes the synthesized voice in the wash of static. Its tones carry something of great age within them. This unit, Cat 8473, the voice replies at last. What's your name? You continue. There is a moment of rapid binaric burble, and then, my name? I think I remember it now. This unit remembers. I was once Magos Tetros Vorich of the Cult Mechanicus once. So the Cyber Skull is all that is left of the Magos of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Could it be that the cybernetic remains of the tech priest that attacked you were once him? How did you come to be like this? You ask, rather curiously. You ask, your curiosity piqued. The voice in your helm is silent for several seconds until the Magos Vorik finally finds his voice again. The Omnisaya's oath was lost. The warp had claimed it. The engines were failing. There was no way out. The crew were dying. The phage had seized control of their flesh. The Magos biologists had recovered the alien virus from the lifeless planetoid. We knew why there was no life there. We were dying, all of us, fearing the worst and the loss of every scrap of knowledge I had accumulated over the centuries. I downloaded my mind onto this unit, hoping it would preserve my consciousness longer than my ailing body could, and then I locked myself away from these already infected, away from the phage, and waited for the virus to eat itself to death. How long was that, you've asked? What year is it now, Vorich asks. By Imperial reckoning, it is the last year of the 41st millennium, you tell the skull. It cannot be, the voice of the tech priest crackles in your ear. Can I really have been asleep all that time? There's more, you inform the Magos. This ship is now part of a derelict warp-borne space hulk that goes by the name of the Herald of Oblivion and has been taken over by the Greenskins. I am part of a mission to cleanse the hulk of the taint of the Xenos. Come with me, aid me in my quest, and fulfill your own oaths of allegiance to the Imperium of Mankind again. Boric hesitates before answering. I will help you, for I cannot stand by whilst the Omnisci's oath is robbed of everything it is, and remade in the image of some heathen alien god. With the cat extracts itself from the nest of cables and trundles towards you on a pair of caterpillar tracks. Follow me, Vorik's voice comes in your ear as the cat trundles away as another hatch rises open, admitting you and the device into another passageway. 2 purity gained. You see no reason not to follow. You set off after the whirring contraption. Making your way through the ancient Mechanicus vessel, you come at last to a vaulted antechamber. Your auspex lights up with all the contacts it is detecting. The place is heaving with green skin of all sizes, from scrawny Gretchen to hulking orc knobs, but all of them are focused on the same activity. On the other side of the vault is a pair of sealed blast shutters. A huge portal looks large enough to admit a Titan, and does indeed bear a cog seal of the machine called the Orcs, and their lesser kin are trying to open the shutters, firing all manners of noisy and smoky weapons at the doors so that the chamber echoes with a report of missile launchers, heavy caliber weaponry, and what seems to be a continuous wave of explosions. I have to get beyond these blast doors. You hear the Magos Vorik's synthesized voice through your helmet come again. I need to create a distraction. Without waiting for a response, the cat whirs away in the direction of the orcs. The greenskins are so preoccupied with trying to force the shutters open that they remain wholly unaware of your presence. But how can you set about distracting so many? It is then with your scouring of the chamber for inspiration that your gaze follows on an autocannon emplacements positioned on either side of the archway by which you have entered the antechamber. Once monotask servitors would have manned these emplacements, but time and decay have taken their toll, and now the gun nests appear to be empty. Against so many of the Xenos, you decide that manning one of the autocannon emplacements could be your best bet. Climb into the autocannon pulpit. Clambering up a spiraling stair to the pulpit of the autocannon emplacement, you disturb a squabbling team of Gretchen that are already there, which appear to be hitting each other with spanners and attempting to strip the weapon of its magazine. If you are going to be able to turn the autocannon to your advantage, you are going to have to clear the emplacement of Gretchen first. Taking your position at the controls of the autocannon with the weapon cycling up to speed and its autoloaders online, you open fire on the orc horde. The high-caliber rounds chew through the masked greenskin, every shot finding a target and exploding another alien body in a weather of blood and bone. The greenskins die in their dozens as your assault reaps a terrible harvest. You gain 1 purity. Suddenly, from out of the throng of fleeing, roaring, screaming greenskins riding a Promethean black contrail comes a crude rocket-propelled device. Releasing your hold on the autocannon, you throw yourself from the gun emplacement as the rocket hits. Although you are not caught by the direct blast, the shockwave catches up with you and hurls you into a mass of orcs charging towards your position. Brace myself. How am I doing on wounds? I feel like I'm taking some hits. 11. You have accomplished a mighty deed, vanquishing the enemies of the Emperor, but there are far more orcs in Gretchen than even one-man army such as yourself can successfully take on. As a wave after wave of greenskin comes crashing down upon your armored form, you fight valiantly until you are overcome. I am still alive, but repeated blows to my helm have rendered me unconscious. Still alive. You are lying on your back in the desert. Your battle with the core clansmen over. You have won, but you are dying nonetheless. You can feel it. And then, there above you, in the bleached white sky, you see a golden angel descending on wings of fire towards the honor arena. Only they aren't rings of fire, and the radiant being isn't an angel. You see it for what it really is, an Imperial Fist Space Marine coming to ground, its jetpack slowing its descent. Only it isn't the roar of the Battle Brothers jetpack you can hear. It's the shrill whine of a circular saw, and then a sympathetic vibration starts up in your armored suit, and your body bound within it begins to shudder in sympathy. Opening your eyes, the patches of gray supernovae resolving in shapes before you. You sit up. In response to the simple action, you hear what sounds like a guttural bark of surprise. You are in a dimly lit chamber that feels almost claustrophobic after the last chamber you were in. Standing in front of you, the roaring power saw, still clutched in one meaty paw, is a large orc with what looks like a pack of heavy tools strapped to its back. It grunts as it regards you with one beady eye and one eye that is oversized, red-lensed, augmented. Behind the greenskin, you see several smaller specimens run for cover of the shadows at the corners of the chamber. It would appear the orc engineer was attempting to cut you out of your Terminator armor while you came around just in time. With another grunt, the mechanic drops its cutting tool and picks up a power drill and comes at you. That was pretty easy. The mechanic falls to the ground dead, its Gretchen crew running from the room, jabbering in fear. The chamber is full of all manner of metal debris, everything from scavenged tooth gears to what appears to be the cores of a cogitator relays. In front of you stands an open archway through which the Gretchen fled. There are no other obvious ways or in or out of the room. Let's look through the chamber, see if there's any equipment. To begin with, every piece of junk you uncover in the Mech Boy's workshop is just that, junk. That is until you find the Stormbolter of an ancient relic of your own chapter. The finely etched decoration on the weapon is wondrous to behold, the work of a master artificer, and praise the Emperor. As far as you can tell, it's still in working order, but your heart sinks when you read the name inscribed upon the bolter's barrel, Kale. For Brother Kale to become separated from this holy Stormbolter, and for it to end up here, his situation must be dire indeed. It is your duty to recover the ancient relic, and sincerely hope that you'll be able to return it to your brother himself before too long. It is time. If it is time you were about your original mission again, you need to find your brother. Outside the mechanic's workshop, come loot cache, you find yourself and a passageway that is all exposed cabling and air circulation systems. This in turn leads you into another more brightly lit chamber, but the sight that greets your eyes has you cursing the Xenos to an eternal torment in the warp. Lying on a slab of cold steel is your brother's corpse. Stripped of his armor, it is quite clear he is dead. The orc surgeon standing over him having already amputated all of his limbs. The pain boy is now in the process of removing Kale's black carapace from the flesh of his torso. Uncontrollable rage is hot as the agony of the pain glove consumes you, focusing your anger and pain into a potent war cry. You launch yourself at the orc. Oosh. Starting to get a little low on life. The pain boy dead, you turn your attention to the violated cadaver of your battle brother. No Imperial fish should have been forced to endure such an ignoble end as this. Your brother's armor lies abandoned in one corner of the room, discarded like so much trash, along with one of his mighty thunder claws. You have no idea where the second one is. The close combat weapon is truly a magnificent armament, each of its long finger blades painstakingly etched with scenes of the Imperial fist defense of the palace of the Emperor on Terra. Do you pick up his lightning claw? Heck yeah, we do. There is one more thing you might yet be able to do for Kale, that is recover his gene seed. But did the apothecary show you how to use his reductor before he died? Yes, he did. You enter the code and successfully activate the reductor. Since Brother Kale has already been stripped of his armor, it is a straightforward manner to extract his progenoid glands, storing the two grisly lumps in their own stasis chamber inside the apothecary equipment. You gain 2 purity. Purge the Mechanicus Arc of the Xenos infestation. There's nothing more that you can do for Brother Kale now. The loss of his suit of tactical dreadnought armor is one that you and your battle brothers will have to avenge at a later date. What matters now is that you purge the Mechanicus Arc of its Xenos infestation, and then do all that you can to regroup with the rest of your squad. Your weapons primed, ready to bring the Emperor's wrath down on the heads of the Greenskins. You exit the Pain Boy's laboratory, Cum Abator, sending a swarm of small, gribbly things scurrying and hopping before you. Turning the corner, you suddenly find yourself on a protruding platform that looks out over a vast vault beyond, and the sight that greets your eyes has you staring in appalled horror at the totem titan being constructed within the great hangar. The hangar is alive with activity, but it is all focused around the vast alien idol that has been constructed on the far side. To say that it is akin to one of the Cyclopean fighting machines of the Legioness Titanicus would be blasphemy, disrespectful to the ancient god machines of the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Stampa, as the orcs refer to these monstrous devices, bristles with a host of primitive yet lethally effective weaponry. The interlocking plates of its cobbled together hull have been daubed with brutish symbols and adorned with ugly tomatic devices. A host of orcs teem at its feet, while dozens of Gretchens scurry over every part of it. The mini Gargant is a likeness of one of the orcs' savage deities, and to think that it has been constructed from the cannibalized wreck of this noble ark of the Adeptus Mechanicus has you swearing an oath of moment that even if It is the last service you perform in the name of the Empire. You will destroy it. Descending from the platform via a service ramp, you charge into battle, targeting the nearest Orc greenskins. Aware of your presence now, the host of greenskins gathers within the hangar start to move towards you at a lumbering run, their massed footfalls setting the deck plates shuddering as the Mechanicus vessel is coming under fire from the Orc Killzozer. It is then, as the horde charges towards you, and you prepare to meet your end in battle, that the hangar is rocked by a massive explosion that knocks the greenskins off their feet and only just leaves you standing. As the shuddering boom passes, the smoke clears, something immensely tall, feral, and awe-inspiring strides into the vault through the hole that was just blasted in the hangar, while the monstrous thing stalks across the chamber, its low slug, wolfish snout sweeping from side to side as if it is sniffing the air for a scent of its prey and letting off uncontrolled bursts of plasma fire into the greenskin throng. Watch in awe. With a wretcheding chatter of gears and chains, the mini Gargant stirs to life, whirring its personal arsenal in the direction of the darting warhound. The Gretchen howls in fear are drowned by furious bellowing of the larger Orkin as the brutes turn their attention towards the new interloper and moves to engage with the Stampa. The Orc that was leading the initial charge against you, a stolen commissar's cap on its head, its left arm encased with a huge tearing metal claw, is determined to have satisfaction, and it will be your pleasure to deny the Xenos its revenge. The deafening roar of another explosion drowns out all other sound for a moment, dragging your attention back to the battle now raging between the Warhound and the Stampa. The Orcish idol is already lost its super Gatler, while the Scout Titan is limping badly. As you watch, the Warhound's primary weapon fires with the sound of a wolfish bark. A bolt of superheated energy flashes from the plasma blast gun, impacting the Stomp at close quarters and vaporizing its hull belly plating. This is followed by a fusillade of fire delving at point-blank range by the Vulcan Mega Bolter. Flames lick the inside of the eye sockets and gun ports of the Stampa as the idolatrous machine is taken over by a succession of the mechanical seizures. It is then that you hear the crackle of the Magos' voice again inside your helm. Run, brother Nabor. Magos Vorik, you begin? There is no time, comes the tech priest, disembodied voice again. Run while you can. You cannot hear him speak again. The greenskins are milling around in confusion now, as many of them are crushed underfoot by their erratic, out-of-control idol. You understand what is happening to the machine now. Its power plant is being critically damaged, and it can only be a matter of seconds away from catastrophic meltdown. It is time you beat a hasty, tactical retreat. Moving as fast as your Terminator armor will allow, you make your way out of the hangar in a race to escape the Mechanicus vessel before the detonation of the Stampa's power plant cleanses it of Xenos filth infesting it. Run. You reach your way out of the Titan hangar as the Stampa's power core goes critical. You hear the detonation of its fission reactor and then nothing else, as the furious roar of the massive explosion subsumes everything else. Not daring to look back even for a nanosecond, you keep running, the auto senses in your helm alerting you to the approaching firestorm. With Klaxon screams. The passageway you are running down narrows as you near the sealed bulk door at its end, and then, mercifully, the door's machine spirit awakens with a hiss of compressed gas and accompanied echoing clang of the steel. The door opens. You throw yourself through, slamming a palm on the closing mechanism on the other side before rolling flame catches up with you. You have done it. Through your actions, the orc Stampa that has been destroyed and the orc hosts along with it. You gain 3 purity. Did you manage to eradicate the orc fungoid fungus? Yes, we did. There's nothing else to be done here. Brother Kale may be dead and gone, but there may be survivors of the squad still out there, lost somewhere within the Xenos haunted depths of the Herald of Oblivion. Further explore the Herald of Oblivion. You feel weary, but your resolve is strong. Push on. Which of your brothers are you gonna go after? Well, there's only one option, so